So if marketing does a really good job beforehand with good content and all that stuff, most of the questions, most of the concerns, most of the objections have to be addressed before they get to the SDR. And that makes obviously a much better environment for the SDR once the customer gets on the line or they have a chat or whatever is the medium that they connect with in order for them to get converted. So for me, SDRs are crucial. And if your company has one, you should leverage them and connect them with marketing so that you can create content, so that you can really figure out how you can improve your product, because they're the ones in the forefront listening to the customers and their concerns. Traditional companies really push out more an outbound team. The idea with creating content around it is facilitate sales conversions, really enhance the conversion rates by creating content and addressing everything beforehand. So when they reach the SDR, pretty much it's a done deal.
How do you optimize your customer's journey, drive demand, reduce churn rate, increase retention, and generate growth? Are some of the questions marketers continuously ask.
Welcome to the Customer XP Crew Weekly Podcast, where we discuss marketing strategies, tactics, ideas, experiences, invite guests and experts to help you with your marketing growth by being customer-centric. And now to this episode.
Hello, Juan, and to all of our listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Customer XP Crew, your weekly podcast about everything customer-centric. By the way, I would like to let our audience know that we're now on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts too. So please go and subscribe there as well. Today I'm joined by Juan, our marketing director expert, and we are going to discuss something very interesting, that is the SDR team versus marketing team. So Juan, how are you today?
Hey, how you doing, Sebastian? I think it's a wonderful morning. It's cold here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's freezing, honestly. I cannot go outside without a sweater. My nose gets really, really frozen, but other than that, really good. How about you?
Great, great. It really is really starting to look a lot like Christmas, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
let's hope Santa treats us well this year.
Yeah, we hope so. Okay, so we were going to talk today more about SDR teams and how they complement marketing, and marketing complements the SDR teams if they fall together within a sales team or if they fall together within a marketing team. At the end of the day, they're within an organization, and that's what it it's really about. Um, I think one of the things that it's crucial to say is SDRs are the forefront with customers. They're the ones that have the most time with the customers. Therefore, they have an amazing array of tools that they can provide the marketing department. For instance, they have the questions, the frequently asked questions, which are really good content creation topic for the marketing team to develop. So just by kind of really gearing together the SDRs and having them implement some connection with the marketing team, it can really not only leverage the marketing, but it can also make the SDR's job a lot easier. Obviously, sales development representatives, when they want to obviously sell and convert customers, but more importantly, they want to do it in a fashion where it's easy for them to convert. Remember that a good salesman is never caught selling. More, it's about helping. So if marketing does a really good job beforehand with good content and all that stuff, most of the questions, most of the concerns, most of the objections have to be addressed before they get to the SDR. And that makes obviously a much better environment for the SDR once the customer gets on the line or they have a chat or whatever is the medium that they connect with in order for them to get converted. So for me, SDRs are crucial. And if your company has one, you should leverage them and connect them with marketing so that you can create content, so that you can really figure out how you can improve your product, because they're the ones in the forefront listening to the customers and their concerns.
What would you say it's like the traditional scenario where SDR operates? Because I know for a fact that for some people they are not very clear about the role of the SDR. So how do they normally work, or how do they operate? Who do they respond to as well within the organization?
So it really depends on the hierarchy of the organization, how you do it, but they can fall either in the marketing team or the sales team. It really depends on if you have a sales director, probably the sales director might want it on their team. But if you don't have a sales team, then you might want it on the marketing team. And if you have both, then it's a good resource to share between the two departments. Again, I'm being very focused on the fact that these people are at the forefront of the customers. They are the ones taking in the calls, they take in the objections, they take the questions. They are the ones listening to the concerns, why some of the things are not working, some of the features, all this kind of stuff. If the branding is not done right, if you just don't have a lot of brand penetration. So all these kind of things can be addressed, and obviously it can really create a good synergy between the sales team and the marketing team. If they connect together, they create a strategy, or they have some type of meetings where you just bring down all the ideas and commonalities between what all the SDRs are hearing. And obviously you create content around it, you publish, you address objections, you create tools for the SDRs to make a better job, and hopefully they close at a better rate.
And what do you think, or where do you think this notion comes from? Like this idea of antagonizing the SDR to marketing and the standard sales department, because that has been like an ongoing thing, which I think is very, it kind of is silly or unnecessary, being that they work for the same company, but it has been seen. So why do you think that happens?
I think it happens because we come from traditional companies where sales are still done on a traditional way, mostly outbound. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. Obviously, it works, but it's a lot harder for the SDR. It's a lot more stress. It's lower conversion rates. So if they're antagonized, because obviously, when the marketing team on a traditional company, they tend to do some efforts. What happens is they don't have the feedback of the sales team, and they don't really know what the customers are saying. So you're just going in blindly to create messages that you can really enhance if you had the input from the SDRs. Again, because they're at the forefront, because they're the ones listening to all the customer feedback. So by missing that critical information, you're creating a hypothesis, which, again, from a scientific method perspective, is fine. But if you have people already creating experimentation with the messages, and that, you should take it into account and not create two silos where that information it's not being shared. So traditional companies really push out more an outbound team. The idea with creating content around it is facilitate sales conversions, really enhance the conversion rates by creating content and addressing everything beforehand. So when they reach the SDR, pretty much it's a done deal. If they have some questions, if they have something, it's minor, because the marketing team has addressed everything beforehand. Whereas in a traditional method, these guys are also going without the right tools and equipment to create a sound advice for the customer, and they are
It's
just
true.
pushed down on numbers and not. And I think, yeah, and I want to make also a little bit of effort explaining this. A lot of companies traditionally, it's like, okay, so how many people did we close, how many people did we reach, how many calls did you really convert on, and so all this kind of metrics really pressure the sales rep, but you don't take into account that they don't have the tools and the mechanisms to really create an education beforehand in order for them to convert customers at a higher rate. So you create sales teams that are stressed, that don't feel motivated, and all that kind of stuff that goes around within your culture, which ends diminishing the efforts, and you have a high rotation within your sales team, and SDRs come and leave, and training obviously it makes it more expensive for the company because this person is not gonna sell right and it has to get acquainted with the material and product information. So there's a learning curve that plays into account into that, and just rotating and having a high turnover rate on SDRs obviously is not gonna help your sales. So if you really engage and create synergy between your sales team and your marketing team, then you're gonna have a better operation, whether sales is not the antagonist or marketing is not the antagonist of the sales team. That's my take on it.
As you were mentioning, SDR have to tackle some typical challenges. That's why some leaders now are trying to push the idea of getting SDR to respond to marketing instead of sales. What's your take on that, and what do you think are the benefits?
Well, from my previous response, I can say that SDR is coming on the umbrella of marketing. They're gonna have a lot more tools because again, content is being created in order for them to excel at the job they're doing. So that really creates an enhancement in their process because again, when they come to the phone, if marketing is being done correctly, it generates the awareness it needs. It creates multiple touches with the customers in their customer journey. So when they are being addressed now in the middle of the funnel and they're trying to really evaluate if this is an option, a solution, all these questions are being answered. If they want to listen to testimonials, they want to see some type of, I don't know, tool demo or whatever it is, they can schedule it. So they can see everything before, and when it turns out to a conversion, then the sales rep, when it comes down to them, then it's going to be easier for them. So if you put it under the marketing umbrella, I think one of the things that happens, it's obviously we all want to convert. It's sales, it's revenue, and the company, it's especially with investors and obviously bottom line. That's how you measure company success is revenue. But more importantly, you have to create a culture where people love what they're doing and they feel motivated. So if you're creating the tools that are necessary and you're converting and you're always optimizing that process, it's gonna yield the results you want. And really what happens is over time with good marketing, then it becomes like a machine where you might want to create a really, really, really big team for sales, because then once a marketing is done correctly, you have good brand awareness. You're really creating tools where people are discovering your brand and your product, and they are trying it or they're reading about it, they're seeing testimonials, they're seeing case studies and all that stuff. Then people are going to come in naturally, and they're not just going to come one by one, they're just going to come in large numbers, especially for SaaS companies, but overall in business. And what happens then is you're gonna have to have a response in for that demand. And obviously, coming under the umbrella of marketing, these people are going to be so much happier. The SDRs are going to be so much happier because then the customers are well informed. If they have a question, it's more of a technical question that can be really solved by the SDR at the time of the call or at the time of communication. Whereas before they had like basic questions. Now they come more prepared with to the SDRs, and they're already sold. These people are already sold because they already did their whole customer buyer's journey beforehand coming into a sale, and that's where I see the most impact.
For our audience that might be wondering, like, how or what would be an example of SDR collaborating with marketing. I was just thinking, like, a very good graphic example would be like, let's say this customer downloads an ebook, and in order to do that, because that obviously that falls under a strategy that marketing had previously thought out, they have to leave their information or a landing page. And with that information, that says a lot about a prospect. So I believe that would be like a core um, information that SDR can work with. Hence, they can provide like a more qualified lead that they can work and they can escalate easier. So that would be, I think that would be like a perfect case scenario of both areas working together.
Correct. I mean, just sharing information between departments, creating tools that enhance the buyer's journey. It's obviously gonna help out with just creating this experience for the customer. At the end of the day, it's creating an experience for the customer where they feel they're being heard. They feel like, oh, you're in their mind, which it's gonna make the sales process a lot easier.
Exactly. Do you have some final thoughts to wrap things up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to cover and recap everything, it's SDRs obviously are an integral part of a company, especially more traditional than more modern ones, where a lot of it is being done online. Nonetheless, having an SDR, depending on the product you're selling, obviously the more comprehensive the product, the more questions it's going to raise because it's not easier to understand, and that's where you need a good SDR team to help out. And if you help out your SDR team with a good marketing team, then you're just going to reap the rewards and have a great revenue and conversion rates, and they're going to be happy because inbound, it's a lot easier than outbound. I'm not saying
Absolutely.
it should be 100% inbound. Obviously you need a mix in order for it to grow. But if you can create something that looks 90-10 or 80-20 or 70-30, where it's more inbound than outbound, it's going to help a lot because your company, if it's doing great marketing, you're going to see how people are start calling you, reaching out to you, and they look for a way for in order for you to grow your company by providing the service that you crafted with so much passion.
Awesome. And that's a wrap. Thanks again, Juan. And thanks for all of our audience for staying and listening. It was awesome to have you. Please remember that we're now on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So please go subscribe there and stay tuned for our next episode of the Customer XP Crew. See you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.